Welcome to an intro to sampling and mixing. I'm Olive Del Sol. Let's get started. What is a sample? So let's check out a few. Here's a sample. It could be effects. It could be a riser. It could be some drums. It could be a found sound. It could also be part of a pre-existing song. So they're usually short pieces of audio. And let's go ahead and play with a sample using the instrument Simpler in Ableton. So pause the video, start up Ableton, and then we'll walk through it. All right, so now that you've got Ableton open, go to the left-hand part of your screen, find Categories, go to Instrument, and then choose Simpler. You can either double click it and it will open up in your clip view, or you can drag Simpler onto an already existing track. Then you'll grab your sample or a piece of audio, which could be in many different audio formats, whether it's MP3, WAV, AIF, etc., and drop that sample into Simpler where it says drop sample here. Now, let's take a look at what that looks like. If you choose the classic mode when you've dropped your sample into Simpler, it turns your sample into a repitched instrument. So let's check it out. There's our tambourine sample. And now there it is, repitched. You can also choose slice mode in a few different slice by options. There's slice by transient, which is, the peaks in your waveform. You can slice it by beat, which is whatever beat per minute you've chosen in your Ableton session. You can slice it by region, or you can slice it manually. What this does is turn your sample basically into a drum kit that you can play different pieces of your sample whenever you like. So like this. Here's one part of the sample. Here's another quieter part of the sample. Yeah. Awesome. So do get acquainted with Simpler. There's a lot of amazing things you can do with the sample in Simpler. Actually, there are so many pros to sampling. You get to reimagine what a sound can be, and it adds a lot of flavor to your music. But if you're using a sample that's already part of a pre-existing song, it could mean that you're not allowed to distribute someone else's copyrighted music. So what if you want a sample? How can you do that? You can always record your own samples or collaborate with another musician to create original samples, or get their permission or pay them to use their original pre-existing samples. You can use music that's in public domain. That means it is not subject to copyright. These pieces of music will be before 1922 or 70 years after the death of the author. You could also use a subscription service like Splice or Loop Masters, and they will pay the sample creator their royalties. And royalties are compensation for the creator of any copyrighted work. I recommend diving into whosampled.com to really get a bigger view of what you can do with samples. You can see what many other artists have created with different samples. You can check and see if a sample you're thinking of using is fresh, or if it's been used a lot and it's popular. You can hear the full original track as well as the sampled version and compare and contrast. So I recommend checking it out, whosampled.com. And now we're going to dive into the huge subject of mixing. So what is mixing? If you've seen a mixing board, you'll see some things that go up and down that you can pull up and down, and they're called faders. And you'll see some things that you can twist, and those are called potentiometers. So a fader often will control the relative amplitude or volume of your tracks to each other. And a pan potentiometer will give you a chance to put your sound either on the side or in the center of your mix. So think about if you were looking at a photograph or a painting. Some of the elements in that photo are going to be in the foreground, and some will be in the midground, others will be in the background. And this is pretty similar to a song mix. There are going to be lead elements, lead synths, vocals. There will be midground elements and background elements like pads and things like that. Atmosphere. Additionally, you can also place your sonic elements in the center or the sides of that mix. And mixing is basically the art of creating a sonic space called the stereo image. And we'll talk a little bit about the specific tools you can use to adjust things within that stereo image. Like we talked about, panning will give you a chance to go from the sides to the center. Volume or relative amplitude will give you a chance to put things up front or back, depending on how relatively loud it is. And EQ, which is short for equalization, will allow you to attenuate or focus on parts of your wavelength and emphasize those or cut them. Another thing you will definitely want to use when you're mixing is a bus. Busing is something in mixing that allows you to group your tracks and process your signal. So check out that simple flow chart that goes from the synth to the reverb bus and all the way to the master out, which is going to your headphones or your speakers or what have you. A bus is sometimes also known as an aux track or a send. And the cool thing about using a bus is that you can apply the same reverb or effect to any tracks that you send to that bus. So let's take a look at how a bus is routed in Ableton. You'll start with your audio track. Each send is going to be lettered in Ableton, and we're looking specifically at send A, which is going to reverb. So you've got your audio track, and then you'll go to your A send, and this is how you send the audio to the bus. So here's what it sounds like wet. And there's dry at the end. So you get to choose the amount of that effect or that reverb that you want to add. A great mix is going to sound well balanced on many different systems, from a festival sound stage all the way down to earbuds. So if you want to really make sure if your mix is working out well, you'll want to monitor them on different systems and make small adjustments. So some things you can monitor with are headphones, studio monitors, car speakers, a club PA, a phone speaker, computer speakers, basically anything anyone could use to listen to your song. Good luck on your journey with sampling and mixing, and I hope you're excited to explore. I'll see you in the next video, which is Intro to Synthesis.